Welcome to week 5, everyone. I hope everything is going well. I hope you were able to get that first essay finished and turned in with relative ease and lack of hassle. So I look forward to reading those. I will go ahead and ask for a little bit of patience up front because every time an essay is due, I have about 100 essays to grade. So it will take me a little bit of time, but I will post feedback as soon as I possibly can, and we'll let you know when that's done. Before we look ahead to Essay 2, I just have a couple of things to sort of announce and address. It's a good time with Week 5 to do a check-in. By the end of this week, we'll be a third of the way through the semester. I understand how the first few weeks of a semester can go when it comes to not just trying to negotiate college generally and trying to fit it into your, already existing lives, but also just the kind of hoops that you have to jump through and the red tape that can get sticky. I know that financial aid can get delayed, and that means that textbooks can't be purchased, and that means work can't be done always. And I know that online courses may be unfamiliar and they rely on internet and computer access. And so bearing in mind all of that, which can happen in the weeks leading up to, or in the first couple of weeks of a semester, it is something I tend to do each semester, which is once the first essay is turned in, to open up all of the work that we've done up to that point and give everyone a chance to kind of get quickly caught up. So that goes for quizzes, discussion posts, the entrance writing sample. If you, for whatever reason, didn't get any of that done during the first few weeks, you will have until the end of this week to go back and make that work up and get credit for it. So the drop boxes, or excuse me, the discussion posts are already unlocked. The quizzes technically never lock. And the entrance writing sample folder should be open as well. So now's the time. But I will remind people that when it comes to discussion posts, 2 replies are required for full credit every time. There's somehow been some confusion about that particular requirement, even though it's been brought up before, and even though those requirements are the very first thing that you see when you click on the discussion page. Regardless, I know how it goes. Now's your chance to get caught up. With quizzes, you get 2 attempts at each one of them. If you took the quiz once and didn't do as well as you wanted to, take the quiz again. I will also just sort of remind really quickly that I greatly prefer email being sent to me from my actual webmail account. I know that a lot of you have reached out through Brightspace, and I admit to being very inconsistent when it comes to responding through Brightspace, because Brightspace Messenger, for a couple of very specific reasons, is kind of awful. And I just lose email and don't see that I've gotten it. So again, I apologize if I've left a message gone unreplied to, if it's been sent through Brightspace. Send me a message with your webmail at jmmurphy@pstcc.edu, and I will get back to you much more quickly and promptly. Yes, that means I'm asking you to log into your email every day, but you should be doing that anyway. Should be doing that every day anyway. So, regardless, Essay 2. So we're moving on from poetry, which I'm sure many of you are very thankful for. But basically everything that we talked about with poetry is still in play and might come up again in different forms as we move forward into short story fiction. I'm sure a lot of people will at least find that the content is perhaps a little bit more accessible when it comes to fiction and short stories than poetry. There's frequently less guesswork in terms of what the author is intending to bring across, and that can be helpful for a lot of people. But when it comes to close reading of language, when it comes to examining the specific ways that things are phrased, when it comes to imagery and symbolism and an interpretation of those things to help discuss the underpinned meaning of a text, those things will not leave us, and we will address those in a different context as we move forward throughout the semester. But we're going to start simply. We're going to start simply with this unit by just sort of talking about the basic elements of fiction and the things that most directly separate fiction from poetry other than the syntax and diction, and that is the presence of things like plot, narrator, and setting. Those are the sort of basic elements of a story. Uh, uh, not that a poem, of course, can't have characters, can't have a setting, can't have a narrative, can't have a plot. It's just that frequently poetry doesn't have those things, and poetry is frequently at liberty to not have those things, whereas stories more or less need all of those things in order for it to be a story at all. There needs to be a group of people doing things for the sake of resolving a conflict, and those actions tend to take place within a specific point of time and history. Um, so the notes for this week are kind of covering just the basic intro elements of plot, setting, and narrator, but they're also covering the next level up of fiction analysis, which is characterization. And characterization specifically kind of speaks to the way that a character, or the way that an author reveals who a character is, or the way a character reveals themselves. When we are doing literary analysis, one of the best things that you can do to sort of help yourself is just kind of treat a story, no matter how bizarre or fictional it is, treat a story as if it is actually happening. Treat the characters of a story as if they are real people. And in that case, when you are discussing characterization, it's basically just discussing people. Authors will do all kinds of things to tell you who a character is without directly telling you who a character is. And the notes basically sort of hinge around an anagram of STEAL, STEAL. And those 5 letters refer to the 5 different things you can look for when you're trying to analyze who a character is. The easiest is probably S, which is what a character says reveals a lot about them. They may not necessarily just be saying, I am this type of person, or I think this, or I believe this, but what a character says and how they say it is revelatory of who they are, what they believe, what they value, all kinds of things. Frequently in fiction, we are privy to what a character thinks, and so that's the T. And what a character has rattling around up in their head says a lot about who a character is frequently. We're not often privy to a character's internal monologue, although frequently enough we are, especially if we're dealing with a omniscient point of view or a first-person narrator. If in the case of a first-person narrator, everything that a story says can be put in the context of something that a character thinks, because it is a character telling the story. When it comes to E, that stands for effect on others. That might be the hardest one to remember because it's the most complex. But just like we do with people, certain people come into the room and people react to them in certain ways. And that can also tell you a lot about who that character is by proxy of how they have treated other people, how those people in the room view that character. If everybody dreads when somebody comes into the room, that says a lot about who a character is. A is act. Very simply, straightforward, what a character does tells you who they are. The actions that they take, the things that they do. And then, of course, L, which with fiction might be the most difficult one because we don't actually see the characters, but characters are frequently described to us. Not always in one big block of, well, they were wearing this and they wore their hair like this, but little details will get dropped in along the way that will tell us what a character looks like. And not always, but frequently, a character gets depicted visually through clothes or through imagery with clothes, with hairstyle, with makeup, all kinds of things. When you are analyzing a character, that's very similar to analyzing a person in real life. And we judge people constantly by all of those criteria, whether we know them or not. If we don't know them and we see them, we size them up. When a character says something to us, we don't just necessarily take what they say at face value all the time. Sometimes we read into why someone said this or why someone did this. We do this ourselves. We express ourselves constantly as people through these various means, through the way that we speak, through the way that we carry ourselves, the way that we present ourselves visually, the way that we act, all of these things are revelatory to who we are, and they're revelatory to who a character is when you see this happening in fiction. So that's the focus for this week. The discussion post this week specifically kind of plays off the interplay between narrative voice and characterization sometimes. The story, Model's Assistant, that we're reading for this week is told in the first person, and the entire story is basically this one character and their relationship to the narrator. And so I will look forward to reading your discussion posts and seeing what you have to do. Don't forget the reading quizzes for this week. All the work is linked in the announcement below. If you have any questions, let me know. Enjoy your week, and talk to you soon.